Hello, welcome to Perspectives on Financial Aid. My name is Amin Gonzalez, and I'm one of the admission officers here at Yale University. Having just heard from my colleague on Perspectives on Admission, I'm happy to introduce you to Perspectives on Financial Aid, and I'm fortunate to be joined by two current students who are going to provide their own perspectives on their experiences with aid.
Hi, I'm Arizona Green, class of 2018. I'm a mechanical engineering major, and I'm from Carrollton, Georgia.
I'm Stephanie Attenborough. I'm class of 2017. I'm an English major, and I'm from Merseyside, England.
So to start, before we go too much further down the conversation about financial aid, I wanted to mention and really underscore Yale's twin commitment to being both need-blind in admission, as you've heard about earlier, and also being need-based in financial aid. And this twin commitment at Yale allows us to be equally accessible to all students, no matter their country of birth, citizenship, or residence. I would start with the fact that Yale's annual financial aid budget is about $120 million, which is pretty significant. And also the fact that Yale was one of the first institutions in the United States to champion the cause of need-blind admission, which is essentially that no student should be prohibited the possibility of pursuing a higher education because of their ability to pay. Other things that are important to underscore with respect to access and affordability at Yale is the fact that a good number of students will not have any parental contribution. So if a student's family makes less than $65,000 a year and has typical assets, they will not have a parental contribution. No student is going to be packaged with an award that's going to require them to take out debt prior to graduation. And all students will have the opportunity to work on campus if they so need to, and it will start at about $12 an hour. Only need to work somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 hours a week to make their self-help contribution. So these are things that we feel really allow our students to maximize their experience as undergrads and to be able to proceed into their lives and in their careers debt-free, to pursue their passion and not to pursue things that are going to be more determined by monetary indebtedness. So applying for financial aid can be intimidating because there's obviously a lot of information to digest and several forms that you need to submit. The most important forms for submission for application are the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, which is submitted online and is available after January 1st. The CSS, the College Scholarship Service Financial Aid Profile, which is available in October, and all students have to fulfill and complete both of these forms electronically, as well as any documents related to family income, taxes, tax returns, and bank statements and things along those lines. When all of that information is gathered, the Financial Aid Office embarks on a sort of a needs analysis review to determine how much aid the student might be eligible for. To go into a little bit more detail about how the students engage the financial aid process, we're going to hear from Arizona and Stephanie on their sort of perceptions going into the process and what the realities were once they were in the throes of it.
I was fairly intimidated in applying for financial aid. I come from a low-income divorced household, and a lot of times that makes finances a little bit more complicated. But I was very surprised and very pleased to see that the FAFSA and the CSS profile, they were both organized in a way that was convenient for non-traditional households in that sense. And I guess another part of applying for financial aid was figuring out the deadlines because there are so many forms. But it's really nice because even when I would submit one form late or I was missing something, I would always get an email from a financial aid officer to help me out. And so it's not as stressful as it looks when you're first seeing the long laundry list of things that you have to do.
Yeah, and I would agree that it can seem very intimidating. There's a lot of forms to fill out, but for me, coming from a background that was not American, I was filling out these forms in the currency that was my own, so I wasn't asked to transfer anything. And so that meant that it was really easy for us to just take the digits and the numbers that we knew and were able to understand as a household and put them in. And the other thing that I really valued about all of these forms is they took into account a lot of the extra things, the fact that I have siblings and the fact that one of my parents doesn't work, and all of those things were really taken into consideration, and I felt like it was a very holistic look at my financial aid as opposed to just crunching some numbers as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's an important point to underscore, is the fact that the financial aid process does in fact carefully consider individual circumstances, that it's not cookie cutter or one size fits all, that each student and family situation is going to be different from the next, and that it's important to sort of engage in that conversation as early as possible. And I would say another thing that's important is to understand that these are two distinct processes. They sort of happen in parallel paths. You don't wait to be admitted and then apply for financial aid. You apply for financial aid at the same time that you're applying for admission. Even though these are separate processes, they are obviously going to be a little bit related at the end. One of the tools that we make available for prospective students to use in trying to get a better sense of what a financial aid award might look like at Yale is the net price calculator, which you can find online on every college or university website across the country. And one of the hopes of the net price calculator is to provide a reasonable estimate of what a financial aid award letter might look like. And what I would underscore here is that it's important to understand that the information that you put in is going to result in a return, a sort of a prediction, but not a guarantee offer of financial aid. And so it's to your benefit to use as current of information as you have, as much information, to engage your parents, your family, whoever has a relevant, sort of information to share on this. And to understand that it's going to take a little bit of time. It won't take as much time as filling out the FAFSA or the CSS profile, but it will take some time. And you definitely want to explore that and use it as a foundation for a conversation. So I'd like to sort of, ask the students with us this afternoon to sort of really share a little bit about their insights and potential use with it. And as the parent of a, senior now, I'll be using it myself in the next couple of days. But it's a great tool to put out there.
So yeah, as the oldest sibling in my household to go to college, I know that we use the net price calculator whenever we were trying to figure out what, even just a ballpark estimate for what my expenses were going to be in coming to a school like Yale or any other highly competitive university. And when we used the net price calculator, I believe the amount that we received, it wasn't the exact same as what I ended up paying in the end, because that's not guaranteed by the tool. But it was a great idea to kind of have an idea of what my expenses would be compared to if I decided to go to an in-state public school, because in Georgia we have, there's like state scholarships and things like that. So it was nice to have that, just an idea before I even got my acceptance letter.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of need-based grant options that Yale has means that it was even more affordable for me to come across the world to go to school here as opposed to stay in my home country. And that's something that made it even more kind of just like an option, was to see that I would be able to receive grant money and receive it at a level that made that jump worth it. And I couldn't necessarily use the net price calculator because it's calculated in US dollars, but I do still remember kind of looking at it and just like plugging in some numbers, kind of get a sense of what the different schools were looking at and what different expenses were. And even if you can't use your exact data, just kind of playing around with some numbers can actually give you a really good sense of what the expenses are and what you might begin to understand a little bit of what they're taking into account when looking at financial aid.
So one of the other areas of interest that was expressed was sort of getting a better sense of what a Yale scholarship means. And I think at this point it's worth noting that all of the aid at Yale is need-based, as distinct from merit-based. So no one at Yale is awarded money because they run fast, kick the ball far, play first chair violin, or scored perfectly on the SATs. Our philosophy is that everyone who is admitted has merit. They deserve to be here. And then it's our responsibility to make a Yale education financially feasible for them. And that changes the dynamic of the student body because everyone understands that they have deservedness, that they belong here and they have their own ways to contribute. Now, clearly, merit-based money is going to be out there for lots of students, and it's a serious and a legitimate consideration. But we don't want cost of attendance or scholarship or money to be a determining factor in where a student ultimately enrolls. We want it to be driven by their fit with that environment, by their potential contribution, and the growth possibilities. So I'll talk a little bit more about the Yale Scholarship and what form that takes, and also how we arrive at that. And I'll ask Stephanie and Arizona to talk a little bit about how this factored into their decision-making process when they were comparing options and considering, the campus community that they would call home for the next 4 years. So the Yale Scholarship is actually the result of what we call demonstrated need. It's meant to fill the portion of demonstrated need. And that demonstrated financial need is calculated by looking at the total cost of attendance, which includes things like tuition, room, board, books, transportation, personal expenses, and more. Okay? Now that amount at Yale is about $65,000 a year, which is not an insignificant price. But it is worthy of note here that the average grant gift money, Yale scholarship money given to each student, is about $43,000 per year, and even more than that for international students. So clearly it's not going to be really a determining factor necessarily. It doesn't have to be a determining factor in and of itself because we will make it feasible for students and families to enroll.
What's really great about Yale giving need-based aid to everyone is that it means that when you're in a classroom and when you're in extracurricular activities, there is no divide. There are not the merit scholars and everybody else. And so everybody has the opportunity to succeed here. Everybody has the same opportunities for research and internships, and there's not a divide on the campus between those who are merit scholars and those who aren't. And that was something that I was considering when I was looking at a merit scholarship in another school and coming here, was how would this play into my actual experience on the campus, and how would that kind of encourage me to interact or not interact with different parts of the campus. And so when I was thinking about Yale and thinking about how the need-based aid really contributed to the campus, I was really excited to think about how every classroom would be socioeconomically diverse and diverse in so many different ways, and that there wouldn't be kind of any divide based off of something that was already predetermined. And so that was kind of a really exciting thing about the community here, that I think that having this scholarship that is need-based and that is a grant and not a loan really helps kind of to foster on campus and practice.
Mm-hmm.
I know another issue with a merit-based scholarship can be that a lot of times it'll come with strings attached. So some of my friends who have merit-based scholarships, they have to maintain a certain GPA. They can't switch their major for whatever reason because their scholarship is specific to an interest they had already decided on earlier. And so I know here at Yale, because our scholarship doesn't hinge on our academic performance or the major we decide to do, we have a lot more liberty in deciding the classes we want to take and how much time we want to commit to academics versus extracurriculars and things of that nature.
What's really exciting about student employment at Yale is that it takes on many different forms, and students find themselves in all different areas of campus, working in athletics or working in administrative offices and laboratories and academic departments, some of them even in admission offices. And so it's nice to have experiences that can have a kind of professional development opportunity and that pay reasonably well. In fact, I would say quite well, starting at $12 an hour, which is not bad. And that when they graduate, they're not going to be saddled with debt, which I said earlier is not going to sort of deter or really determine ultimately their interests. So we're proud of the fact that we can afford students an education, that they're able to sort of launch into the world without significant indebtedness.
I would say the nice thing about student employment on campus is that there's really such a huge diversity of the jobs that are available. I know, for example, my best friend who's an art history major, he is employed at the Center for British Art here. And so one of his jobs is to document all the different paintings and drawings that they have, and he basically just gets to handle artwork all day. And so one day he even invited me to come to work with him, where he took me to the rare drawings library, and he gets paid to do these things, and it's something that he really loves. On the other side of the spectrum, there are people who will work shelving books at the library because they really want to have some time where they can make money without having to necessarily it having to revolve around an interest. So there's a huge range of opportunities as far as student employment is concerned.
Yeah, I guess I would just kind of continue saying that there are also jobs that really allow you to build skills that are going to be applicable in the workforce later. So no matter kind of what job you may be interested in pursuing, there's probably a student job here which could really help you learn some skills that are going to be applicable, whether that's working in an administrative office and looking through memos and doing things like that are really maybe going to help you later, or if it is being the photographer for an event or something where you can get a portfolio and a resume built up. So a lot of the jobs on campus do really allow you to not just do things that you're interested in, but also to build skills that you can kind of apply to a job and kind of demonstrate when you're looking for an internship or demonstrate when you're looking for a job post-graduation that you have experience and skills built up already, which means that you're ready to kind of go into the workplace.
I know for STEM majors also that it's an option to do research or to work with professors where you not only get paid through student employment, but also you can receive credits for those classes.
So when you arrive on campus, if you're looking for a student job, we have a student employment office, and they will list online all of the jobs that are available at that one given time. There's usually a large range, particularly at the beginning of the year, but they will kind of be added throughout the semester. And in the same building as the Student Employment Office is the Office of Career Strategy, which is a kind of group of professionals who are there to help you with internships or kind of guide you towards finding fellowships. There are a lot of different fellowships here at Yale which will provide additional funding outside of your financial aid to do research or work at an unpaid internship. And so all of those things really contribute to meaning that when you graduate, you'll be able to kind of move into a job as well, no matter what your kind of background may be before Yale.
So you mentioned something that's very important, and that is the Office of Career Strategies and sort of thinking about life post-Yale. And it's also true, I think, that students are also thinking about international experiences. And typically, some students on financial aid perhaps may not perceive international experiences being as readily accessible or available as they might be if they were more resourced. Can you talk a little bit about sort of international experiences for students with financial aid and what that looks like and what form that takes?
Yeah, so the summer after my freshman year, I went to Paris with the Yale summer session, and all of this was covered by an International Study Award, International Summer Award. So every student on financial aid has the option to spend a summer in an international location with the percentage of their financial aid contributing passed over to give you an award of up to $10,000 to spend on an international experience. And what this meant for me was being able to go and engage in a traditional college experience of studying abroad and get to see a little bit more of the world without having to worry about the finances attached to it. And as well, being able to study abroad in the summer as opposed to during the school year meant that I was able to have that experience without taking a semester off, which was something that I didn't want to do. So I was able to kind of make it more flexible, and I felt like I had a lot more control, not just over my Yale experience, but also kind of the summers that I was having as well.
This past summer, I was actually awarded a fellowship through the CIP, which is the Center for International and Professional Experience here at Yale. And they, every year, I guess around Christmas time, they have a huge list of fellowships that are available to Yale undergraduate students, which is really great, and you can apply for any of them, essentially. And they'll pay for basically any international experience. So for me, I spent 2 months this summer abroad, and everything was paid for, my flight, my housing. I even had some left over by the time I came home. And that's open to all students. So most students, I would say, when they go abroad, are using a fellowship or they're using their ISA.
So the process of applying for aid for international students is not dissimilar as for domestic students. The one notable exception, of course, is that international applicants do not have to submit the FAFSA, okay, the free application for federal student aid. But all of the other components are comparable, and the commitment is the same. So again, no matter your country of birth, citizenship, or residence, if you're applying to Yale, you should rest assured that if you're admitted, Yale's going to be accessible to you. And so what that's going to look like in terms of support is that Yale remains actually now one of only a handful, literally, of institutions across the United States that meet the full demonstrated need for all international students as well as domestic students. And that is, a significant commitment on our part. So the idea is that across the country and around the world, we want to attract and enroll the best and the brightest, regardless of socioeconomic income or background. And so we are going to approach the selection process in a need-blind fashion that is not disadvantaging students who are applying for aid, not concerned with their ability to pay, but more concerned with their personal potential, their academic achievement, and their potential contribution to campus. And then once we identify those students that we want to invite to join the class and to help shape the community, we're going to guarantee to meet 100% of that demonstrated need, and that commitment will hold true from the first student who gets in off in early action to the last student who gets in off of the wait list. And that commitment will extend not just their first year, but all 4 years of their undergraduate experience. International students are considered an important part of this Yale undergraduate experience, and we're going to make it reasonable and accessible to them as well.
So I think applying as an international student and knowing that Yale was going to be need blind and both provide the full need made me confident that I wasn't going to be judged based off of my background, but that when I kind of was admitted to Yale, it was really because I was, a part of the class just like everybody else, and my ability to pay did not contribute to that. And so just coming onto campus, that definitely made me and feel like a bigger part of the community. The international community here is not just really large, but also really diverse, and I think that that's a real product of just the application and financial aid process. What's also nice about kind of the package for international students is, as an international student, you're allowed to work on campus. That's as part of your visa, and so you're able to still kind of get the access to a student job. And Yale is really great at ensuring that international students get the jobs that they need on campus because they can't work off campus, and so there's a real commitment there through the Office of International Scholars and Students.
We hope this information has been helpful and that you're able to have a successful application process, a successful senior year, and encourage you to stay in contact with us. If there's any additional information that you require that you would find helpful, do reach out to admission and or financial aid for that information. We're happy to provide it. Good luck. Thank you.